everyone, and welcome to the Ascend podcast, where we discuss excellence at scale. One of the things I love about my role here at Sierra Ventures is working with our early stage founders and helping them with their journeys. The seed stage is tough, and founders that have exited previous startups and are willing to roll up their sleeves and do it all over again always come with a lot of wisdom and a few good stories. Today, I'm talking to Dhiren Bhatia, CEO and co-founder of Inventive AI, an RFP automation platform. Before Dhiren founded Inventive, he was CEO and co-founder of Viewic, which was acquired by Roche. In the interview, Dhiren talks about lessons learned from his first startup and how AI has drastically changed the game. He discusses how he found his co-founders with complementary skill sets that filled the gaps in his own expertise, pushing each other to think creatively and execute more efficiently. This has helped them build a culture, and I quote, that's casually intense. Work hard, move fast, but enjoy the ride. Please enjoy my conversation with Dhiren Bhatia, CEO and co-founder of Inventive AI. Dhiren, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Ann.
So, after a successful exit, what made you want to go back and do the early stage journey again?
Yeah, so after the last exit, I had the opportunity to take some time off, but I really missed the excitement and the challenge. The intellectual curiosity about how AI is going to change enterprise software over the next 15 years and how I could participate in that change. So I love being in an environment like this, and that's what made me jump back in.
And how did you go about finding your co-founders? Because I know from our conversations, you found your co-founders before you even solidified what you were going to build. So how did you think about that?
I did, yeah. I feel like the team is critical, as they always say, and I wanted to make sure that I was working with a team not only that understood the challenges of building a startup, but a team that I could get along with and enjoy a lot of time with, because you end up spending so much time together. So I'd been advising one of my co-founders. He was considering starting a company, and when I decided to jump back in, we decided to just join forces, and then we met our third co-founder and went from there.
And when you think about kind of the skill set that the three of you bring, that was one thing that stood out for me early on, because you've been in the business, worked in corporate as well. Talk a little bit about like how you chose your co-founders and the skill sets that they offer.
Yeah, so we knew we wanted to do something in AI. So I feel like we were lucky enough to assemble a really strong team. So my background has been more on the enterprise software side, and working with large or selling to large enterprises. Gaurav, who's my co-founder who leads product, came from Google Brain, where he was the first product manager for something called Google Bard that over the generations became Gemini. And then Vishak, our CTO, was a researcher at Stanford. He's published a book on deep learning. So we feel like it was a really complementary skill set, building a business in AI. And that's how we came together.
So aside from the lesson you learn on the importance of a co-founders, what are some other lessons that you learned kind of the first time around that you're applying to Inventive today?
So many. How much time do we have? But yeah, I would say perhaps one of the biggest ones is patience. It's it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, the first time around, you do a lot of things. Not everything well, most things don't work your way. And you could end up questioning yourself, am I doing the right thing? Am I even right to do this journey? But over time, I've learned that, it takes time to build a company, and the things that I do today, I probably won't see the results for weeks, months, even years. So just understanding that process, that, we're setting forth on a pot, we sort of, sowing the seeds, and, some of the results will happen now and some will happen like 1 year later or even further on from there. So just understanding that, I need to be patient. I would say that's certainly one of them. And maybe the second one I'd say is just listening to data. And I feel like we did that in the last company, but here we're doing that just right from day one. You can sort of get married to your ideas and have this very narrow focus, but at the end of the day, the data speaks volume. So we're trying to be very conscientious about collecting data across all functions, engineering, sales, customer success, and listening to what the customers are saying, listening to what the data is saying, and making decisions based on that. So I'd say those are two that sort of come to mind right off. So we sort of snaked our way to the idea, I would say. We started with something completely different, but still selling to sales teams within large enterprises.
So what trends or gaps in the market do you see now that weren't as prevalent during your first startup?
I guess that's an easy answer. AI is, clearly, right? AI and everything is the hot new trend, and I feel I'm not quite sure it's fair to call it just a trend. It's sort of upending how enterprise software is being developed, the kinds of pain points that can be solved now for enterprise customers using AI and using, language models and all the other advances. Of course, AI existed when I did my last company as well, but it's just a different ballgame now. And you know, I feel like enterprise software is going to just look completely different in the next 10 to 15 years. So everything is on the table in terms of all these large enterprise solutions and what can be achieved. So yeah, that's kind of that's certainly one of the trends. Maybe another one I'd say is, there's a lot of opportunity with AI, but I feel like software development has gotten so much easier. I started as a software engineer in my career, and I remember writing all the things that you can just subscribe to tools for right now. So that's great for engineering teams, but that also means that there's many more companies competing for the same markets and the same pain points. So even though there's significantly more capabilities with what the products can do, the competition is that much higher. So it's certainly something to consider that's top of mind for me.
Yeah, and what we've noticed as well is it's easier to build, but now positioning does matter more and how you find your niche within the larger ecosystem.
I
How have you
agree.
thought about at Inventive as you sell into these different verticals, establishing your positioning in the market?
Yeah, so we're like laser focused on helping our customers respond to these questionnaires that slow down sales deals, right? So an RFP could show up at the beginning of a sales deal, or some sort of request for information shows up in the middle of a sales deal, security questionnaires, and these things end up, they could end up taking a lot of time to turn around because you need subject matter experts involved, you need senior leadership involved in how you're going to position this document, and your positioning matters because you can rest assured that if there's an RFP you're responding to, your largest customers are responding to, your largest competitors are responding to that same RFP as well. So we're focused, the way we like to think about what we're developing is how do we help our customers win RFPs as opposed to respond to questions in an RFP. So that's our positioning. We're not just building the AI tools to help respond to the questions in these questionnaires, but we're building on this agentive methodology where we're adding AI agents to add functionality and capability to the platform, like doing competitive research. If I'm responding to this RFP, my competitors are too. So what are they likely to say to a specific question, and how can I position better based on the information I have on my competition? Or, maybe more on the content side, managing your content. You're sitting on a large corpus of like thousands and thousands of documents. There's conflicts and staleness across all of these documents. How do you automate the process of helping the people respond to these RFPs, like sales engineers, solution consultants, proposal managers, detect these errors that show up in final RFPs and get sent inadvertently many times? right? So we're building these tools that we know our customers need to turn around a product that is effective, that is strategic, that is error-free. So yeah, so maybe to sum it up in one line, we're trying to help our customers win RFPs, is how I'd put it.
And as we talked about with the growing trends of AI and it being easier than ever to build, when you go up against a company or a competitor that might just be like an LLM wrapper, how do you prove that Inventive is something different and better?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that we are grappling with, and I'm sure we'll grapple with in the future to come. But the way we're doing it right now is, so we feel really good about our AI capabilities. For example, one of my co-founders, Gaurav, who leads product, was one of the first product managers for something called Google Bard as part of Google Brain that across its generations has ended up becoming Gemini. So we've had a lot of experience with language models since perhaps before the term LLM was coined. So what we're doing today is we offer up pilots for a week or 2 weeks to our prospects. It's really, really easy to go live on our platform. Prospects and customers do it in like 30 minutes. They can be live and running their first RFP. And we urge them to compare the quality of the responses, how we manage hallucinations in these language models, the tools that I was talking about that help with content management, conflict management in the content, competitive research. So at the end of the day, I guess the proof is in the pudding. It's hard to market because I'm sure everybody says their AI is the best, but we try and help our customers and prospects focus in on the areas that we know will be challenges based on our experience, and compare our tool with any other platform out there.
Yeah, and it seems to be working, which is great. And it's a question that's come up amongst a lot of founders who are building in this time frame where there is just so many competitors popping up on all sides. I want to transition over to something we touched on at the beginning around team and culture. So as you're building your second company, what's your approach to building a really fantastic team? You already talked about, making sure your co-founders were not only people that are complementary, but also, people you want to work with on every single given day. But how do you think about culture for Inventive?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really challenging ride, starting a company from zero and then building up from there, as we all know. So now with the backdrop of having done it once, I try and really gauge when I'm hiring whether someone is someone coming on board would be coming on to do a startup for the right reasons, right? So I feel like, especially at this early stage, relatively for us, the early team can really make or break the company. So what I like to instill and see from the team is that ownership. So I love telling the team, hey, everyone is an owner in this company, and it's not one or two or three people who are going to make this successful. It's on all of us. So I love it when people feel like it's their company as much as it is anybody else's, because it really is, right? It's not about just one or two people or the founders. It's this excellent team that you build that really moves the ball forward. So I would say that's cornerstone in our culture, that everybody on our team feels like, hey, this is their company. They don't need to be asked to do something. They do it because somebody has to do it. And so that's certainly one of the areas that we like to focus on. It's a fun culture. We have a lot of fun together. I think we did that in my last company as well. My co-founder used to call our culture casually intense. I would say it's similar here. The team has become friendly with each other, gotten to know each other really well. They hang out after work, but at work, there's this accountability that everybody just has intrinsically because they feel like they own the company. And we try and instill or try and demonstrate that as founders as well, the accountability, but also the transparency. You know, it's one thing to say that you want them to feel like owners, but you have to be completely transparent with what's going on, the good and the bad. And we try and do that with the team, sharing investor updates with the team, and the things that are going well and the things that we could do better.
So I know you're still early as a seed stage company in Inventive's journey, but what's been the most rewarding so far aspect of starting over and having to do this again in the early stage chaos? What has been something that's been a highlight for you?
Yeah, it's, to me, it's that feeling of building something from zero, and then you do demos and customers and prospects have that wow moment. I really enjoy that. I feel like, that's why I like to do startups. It's, a team that sitting in an office somewhere came up with this product that, a large enterprise company thinks, oh my goodness, this is going to solve a big problem for us. So that has been very exciting. And I really enjoy the process. I do probably 15 demos a day, and it can get repetitive, but at the end of the demo, when we have that reaction, or a customer writes us and tells us how they feel about using the product, that's really exciting to me. I would say that's one of the big reasons. That's one of the big things I'm enjoying. The challenge of it all as well is building a company from scratch and growing it and trying to navigate the market, solving the problems for our customers. Overall, the challenge is exciting as well. And I knew I was ready for it when I started the company.
So I want to transition over to just advice for founders. So what advice would you give a first-time founder who is thinking about starting something new?
Yeah, I would say so. So there's something from this professor called Steve Blank always comes to mind when I encounter this question. I think he wrote about it in the 4 Steps to the Epiphany. You know, I think the way he put it was get out of the building, talk to customers. I mean, these days everybody works remotely, so I'm not sure which building we get out of. But in general, talk to the customers, hundreds of them, validate the pain point. And, you know, this I think is one of the key takeaways that I've had, and would advise every founder to do. It's, not enough can be said about spending as much time validating the pain point. And then, if it's a tech company or software company, you can go build product once you have conviction that this is a real pain point. So that's how we did it. And and we continue to do that as we're developing the company. The other thing I would say is, complement your skill set, right? So there are some things that every founder will do well, and then there's other areas of growth. So I would say build a founding team where you're complementing your skill set and your co-founders are filling in the gaps for you, and likewise you're doing for them.
Now, if you weren't working in tech, what would you be doing?
Oh, wow. um, I'd be a petroleum engineer. I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering and a master's in petroleum engineering. And by the end of it, I was like, I think I like writing code so much more. So I never worked in that industry, but if there was no software industry, I don't know, I'd probably be doing something like that.
So, final question is, are there any books that you recommend, or talks or podcasts that you recommend for fellow entrepreneurs? And that could be founders or people who just like the early stage journey.
Yeah, so the one I keep going back to, I've mentioned Steve Blank's book, The 4 Steps to the Epiphany. I think that's a great book. I mean, there's so many great books that incredible founders have written. I feel like just writing your own book on your journey is where you end up learning the most, if this is really something for you or not.
Oh, I love it. Well, Dhiren, thanks so much for taking the time today. And if people want to follow along with Inventive's journey, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. We're at inventive.ai. That's our website. Yeah, we'd be happy to connect with people who might be interested or just interested in the entrepreneurial journey, and happy to share my 2 cents if it's useful.